So, I recently picked up the game Deathloop because it was on sale in a Humble Monthly. If you don't know, Humble Bundle does like a weird subscription thing. And you can basically just get a good, group of games for a decent price. And it was, I think, like $9. And I've been looking at Deathloop since it originally came out, and I thought it was a very interesting concept for a game. And after it came out, I was like, ooh, I might have dodged a bullet because a lot of people were very, not super happy with the game. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait for it to go on a sale and try to buy it at that point. And so the time has finally come. I have finally played the game, and I have to say, I'm not really sure what people were upset about. I mean, I understand, for a $60 game, it might be a little overpriced. If I'm being completely fair, it took me about 20 hours to get through the game, and that's with me kind of messing around a little bit after I beat it, and playing a little bit of the multiplayer. I didn't play as much of that, but if you're really into the multiplayer aspect of the game, I think you could have a really good time, and really get more hours out of it. But the game itself is actually pretty good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's got this very 60s sort of aesthetic to it, which I think was kind of fun, and the characters have fun dialogue, and I don't know. I thought that overall the actual gameplay and everything was very enjoyable. It's very unique, I have to say. I don't know of a whole lot of games that really do what this game does, and if you're unaware, the basic concept is once you complete a day, you're stuck running the same day over and over again. So there's 4 different areas in the game, 4 different, I guess, maybe areas is the best way to call it, maybe maps. There's 4 different areas on the island that you can go to. Each of them has different things that happen during different times of the day. So there's 4 different zones, there's 4 different times of day. You have morning, noon, afternoon, and nighttime. And the whole idea is that somebody, one of the people that you're trying to kill in the game, is throwing a party at the end of the night. And so your whole goal here is that the only way that you can break out of this loop that you're stuck in and actually progress with your life and get out of this same day over and over again cycle is to kill all 8 people that are tied to this sort of anomaly that's going on in this island, and by trying to force everybody into one location if possible. So the whole idea is you need to kill all 8 people within the same day to actually break the loop, and I think that that's a really cool concept. So it kind of does this in some cool ways. Obviously, like I said, there are 4 different areas, 4 different time zones, so you kind of have to go to each area during different times of the day and sort of gather all this information and just have an interesting time kind of sneaking around. You can do all kinds of different, ways to play the game, I guess. I prefer sneaking, so I did a lot of stealth, just kind of skulking around, which I guess is probably the slowest way to do the game. So I guess if I'm playing it the slowest and I only got around 18 hours worth out of the main story, I could see where some people were maybe beating it really quickly. I think that the multiplayer was supposed to maybe help slow that down a bit, because the idea with the game is that you play as Colt. And there's also a character named Juliana who is kind of like the main antagonist of the game. And so the idea here is that there's a multiplayer game mode where you can play as Juliana and you can invade other people's games and sort of try to kill Colt off and sort of make him reset and start the whole day over again. And obviously if you're playing as Colt, you're trying to kill Juliana. But the multiplayer is a little one-sided, if I'm being honest. If you're playing as Juliana, the only thing that you need to do is protect the antenna, because Colt actually uses a series of tunnels underneath the island to sort of get around to the different areas and everything like that, and that's how you're going to be entering and exiting each of the levels every single time that you go to an area. So the idea here is, as Juliana, you're going to be protecting this antenna that is sort of broadcasting a signal to shut down the entrance to the tunnels. And so that makes it to where Colt kind of has to come to you in a sense. You can set up, different kinds of traps and everything for him, so that way you can try to kill him as quickly as possible. But the thing is, Colt has a there's like different powers that you get, and the power that you always have as Colt is, I think it's called Reprise, and it basically makes it to where he has 2 additional lives. So you have to kill Colt 3 times in one mission to be able to actually reset his day. Which can be a little weird because as Juliana, you only have 1 life. If you get killed as Juliana, it's over. You're kind of screwed at that point. So it is really fun, and I think playing as Juliana is actually pretty enjoyable. But I think the thing is, like, unless you're able to go around, and there are like there's like briefcases that you can use to nullify the abilities that the characters can use. So unless you're just like really sneaky with it, and you can set up the briefcase and nullify his reprise, then that's pretty much going to be the only way that you can like kill him, like one and done style, I guess. But it's a little one-sided, but I can kind of understand that. Like, I can push past that, in a sense, because playing as Cole, you're obviously trying to run around and gather information and everything, and getting invaded by multiplayer stuff sometimes it's not very welcome. Sometimes you're just trying to have a fun time playing a single-player game and everything. So when I originally played through the game, I set it to single-player mode, which means that if I got invaded by Juliana, it was going to be an NPC who just kind of roamed around the map and tried to kill me that way. I think that the multiplayer is fun enough, and as Cole, unless you're playing against some like really like try-hard players or something like that, I think you can safely leave the multiplayer on. I think that was probably one of the only things that I regret about playing through the game, is I kind of wish I would have played against some actual players, because it was a little fun. Once I actually finished the main story and started to play as Juliana, I started to understand how the multiplayer mechanic sort of ties into the actual game. And so if you're playing the game, or you end up getting the game in the future, I would recommend that you leave it on and try to actually fight some other player Julianas first, and then if it gets annoying and you just want to progress, obviously you can toggle it to play single player, so that way you don't have to worry about it as much. But overall, I thought the game was pretty enjoyable. I definitely think that it was a fun game. Obviously, getting 18 hours out of the story and playing the multiplayer a little bit, I only played about 2 hours worth of it, which was fun, but I don't really see, like, there's not as much, like, I guess, reason for me to continue to play it now that I've beat the game, I guess, because the game does suffer a little bit from not being as replayable as you would maybe like to, because even if you know exactly what you need to do as Colt to sort of like progress and beat the game, unless you progress through the game and Colt figures out that knowledge, like you actually read the note or hear the audio log or whatever the case may be, then your character doesn't realize it, like he doesn't know, so you can't really, like, I guess, play the game your way in a certain sense. Like, I don't know, the first time that you play through it, you're obviously going to want to try to gather as much intel and info on every character as possible, as much as possible, like learning their schedules and where they're going to be and stuff, and that's really fun. But if I were to start a new game, I would maybe want to try and, do some different things. And I feel like you being forced to go and find all this information that you've already kind of found at one point is kind of annoying. So I can give that, I can understand that. That was one of the big complaints that I seen while looking through the Steam reviews and everything recently. But I think the only other thing that people were kind of upset about was just it didn't really match their expectations. And I really like Arcane Studios. They made Dishonored, which I'm a big fan of, and some other great games. And I think people were just kind of expecting this to be like, oh wow, this is the next Dishonored. But I mean, that's kind of just setting yourself up for failure. It's just expecting too much, or expecting something that this game isn't going to meet. So go into it with, I guess, a fresh mindset. Go into it, expecting something new, because I thought that the game itself was very fun and enjoyable, and I had a great time playing it. So definitely, I would say, with the small amount of time that I got out of it, the 18 to 20 hours, if you can find the game on sale, I would probably recommend you doing that, because most of the time when I gauge how much a game is worth to me nowadays, if I can get around 1 hour per dollar, it's normally a pretty good time. And if a single player game like this is really going to hold my attention for a long time, like getting 60 hours out of a single player game, unless it's I don't know, in most multiplayer games it's very easy to just replay that kind of stuff over and over again. But with this game mainly being single player with some like interesting side multiplayer stuff, like tacked on to it. You could probably get some good hours, but for me, I don't know. Getting it on sale, I think, is probably the best choice there. So either way, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I think it's really cool. I liked the game. I really enjoyed it. I had a fun time with it. Looking forward to playing it each day when I got on. So if you're interested at all in it, or maybe you've been putting it off and just wasn't sure about it, I would say if you can find it on a decent sale and everything, I would say go for it. It was pretty fun, and I enjoyed myself. So I don't know. That's pretty much it for me. Don't have anything else to say. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.